What's up, guys? Jordan McAbee here, fantasyracingonline.com, and today we're going to talk about strategy when making DFS lineups at Talladega. First off, my apologies if you hear any lawnmower noises coming through this mic. I swear there's like 17 lawnmowers going on in the neighborhood this afternoon. Which, one thing, like before we get into this, I do not understand people's obsessions with mowing their lawn. There's people that live by me that mow like 2 times a day. And I don't get it. Like never. I hope I'm never to the point in my life where mowing the lawn is like my number one thing on my to-do list and gives me a bunch of satisfaction. I don't get it. It's weird to me. I don't know. Anyway, Talladega. Oh, a fun one. This will probably be pretty short compared to normal, but we're going to go over a few interesting things this week. So my rule with Talladega and Daytona Superspeedways, you're just hoping that your drivers that you pick do not wreck. And that's the best you can hope for. And if they make it to the end, then you hope they, put themselves in a position to win in the closing laps. Starting position is everything here, especially in DraftKings. This chart that I have on the screen right now shows you the base points that a driver will earn based on starting position and finish position. So if you look at the pole sitter, he needs to finish first. It's Denny Hamlin this week. Denny Hamlin needs to finish first just to get 45 base DraftKings points. Now, obviously, that's not taking into account any Dominator points, but if you continue looking through this chart and what starting positions need to get where to get to 45 points, which is the same for Hamlin winning from the pole, which is difficult. He did it here last year, but he could easily do it again this weekend, but it's still difficult. So starting 11th, you need to finish 5th. Starting 12th, you need 6th. 13th, you need to finish 6th. 15th, you need to finish 7th. 17th, you need to finish 8th. If you're starting back in 40th, just to get to 45 points, all you have to do is get a top 20. If you're starting 30th to get to 45 points, all you have to do is get to 15th. So this chart is a very good visualization of just how we really have to go against our normal train of thought with Talladega. And a lot of people over the years have gotten onto this train of thought, but there's still a lot of people that play the pole sitter and play guys starting up front and play, 3 guys starting in the top 5. And that just doesn't work here at Talladega or Daytona. And the reason I continue to include both of those in the same breath is because they are both super speedways. They both have pack racing. They're very different tracks overall, and different drivers are good at different or at each one individually. But at the same time, same style of racing. One big wreck is going to take out half the field more than likely here on Sunday, just like we saw in the Daytona 500. So with DFS, you're really looking to capitalize on the place differential because Dominator points really don't matter. So recently we went, I'm just going to pull up the starting lineup here to give a different screen. But so we were at Martinsville, which was 500 laps, Richmond, which was 400 laps. So 900 laps over the last 2 weeks. We go to 188 laps here at Talladega, of which probably, depending on wrecks, we'll probably get 140, 130, I'm guessing, green flag laps, which will, get fastest lap points in DraftKings. And that depends on how the guys race. We saw at Daytona, they wrecked early, and then they literally just went out there and rode around the track for the next 100, 150 laps, and then kind of got crazy at the end again. So, very likely we could see that again, an early wreck and then they kind of get super conservative. But so Dominator points at Daytona and Talladega, I literally do not take them into account. And I really don't take projections into account either. Like, I run my projections, I post them, but I don't really look at them. I don't really do much with them because all it comes down to at Talladega is your strategy when building a lineup, because of the place differential. Now, as far as getting back on track, as far as dominator points, yes, there's going to be laps led. Yes, Hamlin could lead 100 laps again like he did at Daytona this year, which is going to make a difference in DFS, all those laps led points. But as far as fastest laps, they are super spread out here. So like at Richmond and Martinsville, we had 2-3 drivers that took the majority of those fastest laps, and you needed those dominator points to get the optimal lineup. Here at Talladega, if a driver has 10, that's probably going to be the most on Sunday. It's unlikely, no driver is going to go out there and put up 50 fastest laps here at Talladega. Typically, it's spread throughout the field. About every car gets 1 or 2. And then, a few cars will get 5 or more. So there's, my point being, there's really no point to really think of that or try to predict that. We can try to, based on historical data, like one guy that constantly got 5 or more fastest laps here was Brendan Gaughan in that 62. He's not racing this week, but that's something, you can keep in mind where it's kind of like a guaranteed, in my head anyway, it was kind of like a guaranteed, 5 fastest laps. Plus if he had place differential, potential, then yeah. But so starting lineup this week, I really want to focus on so you can take a lot of races into account here at Daytona and Talladega when analyzing this week. But the 3 I want to focus on this weekend are the 2 Talladega races from last year, and then the second Daytona race. Obviously, you can look at this year's Daytona 500, last year's Daytona 500. The reason I want to focus on those 3 races, excuse me, those 3 races are the only 3 races we have that have been set by this qualifying formula, which essentially puts the best cars up front, starting up front, with the junk cars in the back. You could compare this to when qualifying got rained out in previous years. It would typically then be the best car, the fastest cars up front, the junk cars near the back. So you could pull those races in and look at those. If you're focusing on this like I kind of am, I'm too lazy to do that. So I'm just going to focus on last year's, these 3 races that use the qualifying formula. And I know this is a pretty sloppy spreadsheet, but it gets my point across. Very interesting little tidbit here. The highest scoring driver in DraftKings, so these are DraftKings points, and I have FanDuel averages as well. We can get to those in a little bit. Highest scoring driver in DraftKings over those 3 races where we're using the qualifying formula, William Byron, averaging 54.1 DraftKings points per race. The second Daytona race, I think that's the one that he won. I know this is very sloppy. Let me do this. So this is Byron. Yeah, he finished first. Byron, John Hunter Nemechek. So one thing I want to point out here is the starting positions. And we'll go through each race here. So the first Talladega race last year, Ryan Blaney, he won it, started 12th. Stenhouse had the second highest points at race, Ty Dillon third, Chris Buescher fourth, Eric Almirola, Eric Jones. Typically, so the thing with DFS at Daytona and Talladega is you can typically fit the optimal lineup no problem. The key is nailing it, which is difficult in and of itself. So if you look at this starting position, so Blaney started 12th, Stenhouse started 20th, Ty Dillon 33rd, Chris Buescher 21st, and then Jones and Almirola are really close. They started 15th and 18th. John Hunter Nemechek started 22nd. Not a single top 10 starter was in the top 7 or 8 DraftKings scores at Talladega in the first Talladega race last year. The highest was Denny Hamlin, who started second and finished 4th, and he had 5 fastest laps and 18 laps led. Then we got Byron starting 19th, Brendan Gaughan 39th. Then you have to go all the way down to Bowman starting 8th for the latest top 10 starter, and then more guys in the 20s. So my general formula for a lineup here. So first off, we're trying to avoid this. This is going to happen on Sunday. For those that haven't watched races at Talladega or Daytona, this is going to happen. This is probably going to kill your lineups. And that's just how these races go. If you make it through it, it's kind of like golf. You know, if you play golf DFS and your goal is to get 6 of 6 past the cut, this is the exact same thing. Here's your cut. My general formula for putting together a DFS lineup is, not so you can read it right here. I'll read it to you if you don't want to read. Top 5 starting spot sparingly, absolute max of 1. You do not put more than 1 top 5 starter in your lineup. Typically top 12, 1 driver, maybe 2. So if you have a top 5 starter and the 12th place starter or something, decent. 13th through 29th, 2 to 3. So here you're either at 4 or 5 drivers, and then remaining spots left, 30th through 40th. And then it's perfectly fine to let salary cap on the table, and it's actually encouraged. The optimal lineup this weekend probably isn't even going to get anywhere close to the $50,000 cap. But this kind of gives you a breakdown of the way to strategically do your lineups this week. I preach all the time with Daytona and Talladega. It's not who you pick. It's the strategy with which you take. Yes, we can look at statistics. We can look at who has finished well at Talladega. We can look at as Larry Mack says, the trans. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. You can use that data to kind of get a good idea, if you don't know already, who has been good at Superspeedway tracks and at Talladega, or try to get, if you're picking between 2 guys, like if you're going Truex versus Almirola, for example, you're going to look at the stats. You're going to realize that Truex hasn't finished better than 20th here since 2016, and Almirola's finished 10th or better in like 8 of the last 9. If you're picking between those 2, then you're going to use those stats to pick Almirola. But overall, in the grand scheme of things, the only thing that matters is the strategy with which you're building this lineup. And this is the strategy that I stick to. So looking back at the first Talladega race last year, so we had top 6 drivers are right here. So we had 4 starting top 20. Fits this, this through 29th is included, but 2 to 4 within the top 29, or 2 to 5 within the top 29, and then 33rd and 21st. Typically, there's always going to be at least one guy starting really far back that makes his way into the teens, at least, and that's going to be a huge score. 0 drivers in the top 10 at Talladega. Daytona 2. Oops, wrong one. Top scoring driver, Chase Elliott, started 27th. Brendan Gaughan was the second highest, scoring 69.35 DraftKings points. Nice. There's a damn truck. Starting 40th. Byron starting 6th. He won that race. Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin starting 10th. And then Brendan Poole starting 32nd. You could also throw Ross Chastain in there starting 26th. So this lineup was a little more heavy on the back markers. You got Brendan Poole, Brendan Gaughan, both top 6 scores. You could also throw Chastain in there. He's really close. All starting 32nd or worse. Got Bubba Wallace and Chase Elliott in the mid-20s, and then 2 top 10 drivers. Again, let's go back to the formula. 1 or 2 top 12 starters. 2 to 3, 13th through 29th. And then the remaining 30th through 40th. Doesn't perfectly fit into that formula, but it's close. It's not, again, we're not seeing top 5 starters really showing up here. Byron's the exception, starts 6th, wins a race. Obviously, they're going to put up a good score if that happens. And then let's go to Talladega 2 last year, which I think, let me pull up. I think Daytona 2 was like a huge wreck fest, if I remember right. Yeah. So 20 cars running at the end. Lots of big names taken out in that race. Logano, Kenseth, Reddick, Custer, Stenhouse, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Jones, Newman. So that's going to get those back markers who it, for a casual NASCAR DFS player, it's not going to make sense to, be heavy on guys like BJ McLeod, Joey Gase, Timmy Hill. It's not going to make sense because every other week it's always like, well, maybe they might work, but probably not. And now it's like you need to pick at least 1 or 2 of them. And what's going to happen with those guys is they're gonna ride around in the back, and they're going to maybe go like Timmy Hill typically goes 1 or 2 laps down, just riding around, completing laps, but getting lapped by the field because he loses the draft. But what happens is when they use that strategy of sticking in the back and playing it safe, when the big wreck happens, which happens every race here, they typically miss it. And if you're in that big wreck, your car's probably done for the day. They move up all those spots. Usually they're not going to go up there and challenge for the win, especially in the Cup Series. You'll probably see that in the Xfinity race. But Cup Series, typically you don't see Josh Bilicki or Timmy Hill racing up there for the win. They get to the finish and they try to score. Like, I'm pretty sure their goal is to finish top 15. But that can be huge in DFS, obviously. Talladega 2 last year, Ty Dillon, Tyler Reddick, Eric Jones, Brennan Poole, William Byron, Justin Haley. Starting positions, 28th, 30th, 16th, 32nd, 21st, and 35th. Not a single top 15 starter in that race. One thing to note, though, I'm going to have to check, because that was a race that there was the penalty. I don't remember if... So I know it hit DiBenedetto, where they had the going below the yellow line penalty and took away the finishes of guys. I just pulled the official results and then calculated DraftKings points based on this year's points that DraftKings awards. I'm just making sure that... I hate when websites sign you out. I was just here 5 minutes ago. I forget. But anyway, you get the point here that I'm trying to make. It's really, when you hear people say get your dartboard out, that's the strategy here. I have literally let my dog. I've put all the names into a hat, and all the names of drivers that like 10th or worse or 11th or worse. I've thrown them into a hat, thrown them on the floor, and whatever ones my dog touches first, the 6 that he touches first, I've put into a lineup. I've literally done that before for DraftKings. I've used actual money to put that kind of lineup into DraftKings because that's how much it doesn't matter here. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you pick. Anybody can win this race. Mostly anybody can win this race. Anybody can finish top 10. Anybody can have a huge day. So let's look at not that it really means anything, my algorithm predicted finishing order. Right now, the 3 best drivers on super speedways are Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney. They are starting 1st, 2nd, and 7th. Honestly, yes, we saw Hamlin win from the pole here. He could lead a ton of laps here on Sunday. He's done it before, so could Logano. They're both very strong here. I'm still not going to pick them. I don't put like the 150 lineups in for Talladega. If I was, I'd probably have some just to have some, but I'm hand building all my lineups this week. I will not have a single one with Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr., William Byron, or Alex Bowman in them. I'm just not going to do it. Maybe Byron. We'll see. But maximum of 1. I'm not going to pick these guys. Ryan Blaney is very interesting play starting 7th. Obviously, he can win. He won here the first race here last year. 7th on down is basically where I'm going to make those decisions and then use the typical, rules. I get my set of rules to fill out the lineup. But predicted finishing order, got Bowman finishing 4th, Kyle Busch 5th, and you can see the rest here. Keselowski, Byron, Elliott, Kurt Busch, Buescher. Really disappointed us at Daytona, but a very solid restrictor plate, but super speedway racer overall, as is Ryan Newman. And I think Newman's starting. Buescher starting 21st. Love that play. Newman is starting 28th. Of course, love that play. Definite top 10 potential. But yeah, that's. I will. I'll post my projections as normal. Do my write up. I'll include this chart for easy viewing. And yeah, just good luck. Pick whoever you want. That's the rules this week. Pick whoever you want. Anybody can do good. And quickly look at FanDuel averages. I'm going to be. I don't know why my computer back there does that. I haven't played many slates on FanDuel on Super Speedway, so I'm not as knowledgeable as I am with DraftKings on that. But similar averages, so obviously with drivers getting 0.1 points per lap completed, you obviously want the guys that are going to avoid the wrecks. That's even more important than in DraftKings. Anybody that can avoid the wrecks is not only going to get those points, but they're probably going to move up with the people that do wreck. Averages over those 3 races that we talked about earlier on FanDuel. Byron top 62.5, Hamlin 61.6. That's notable just because Hamlin's so good. I think it's easier to play like a Denny Hamlin or Joey Logano in FanDuel this week than it is compared to DraftKings. Got Buescher averaging 59. John Hunter Nemechek, who that's the car that Anthony Alfredo's in this week. Ty Dillon 13's not racing. Chastain, I forget what car he was in. Obviously only one race over here. But Ryan Blaney averaging a good amount of points, always starting near the front. Again, he could be a good play. Can definitely. I think he's won twice here. Bubba Wallace. I think Penske Fords always have really, really good speed. Yeah, so Blaney's won 2 of the last 3, wrecked out of the last one. Always gets to the front, always leads, and should be a good pick this week if he can stay out of that wreck. But yeah, good luck. I haven't even started writing my article yet as of this video. Again, I'm not I don't get too wrapped up in my projections this week or a ton of history. You're gonna see me throw out numbers, and like this guy, like Amarola has finished 10th or better in 8 of the last 9 at Talladega. That's just because that's how my brain works. I need to have some kind of data to back up my thoughts. Plus, if I just write and say, "Oh, Eric Almirola is a good pick," with no supporting evidence, obviously I'm going to look like an idiot. So I know it sounds like I'm talking both ways here. Data doesn't matter, and then I use it to support my thoughts. But my main point is just don't get too wrapped up in it, especially over these last 2 weeks. Martinsville and Richmond, where we got deep into the data and it was super predictive. It's not as predictive here at Talladega. Just use your brain when constructing a lineup, and remember the importance of place differential. That's the best advice that I can give you, and good luck, because we're all going to need it at Talladega, and hopefully our drivers get through these wrecks and we get some money won and into our account. So yeah, good luck. See ya.